Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. You never know what tomorrow may bring. That's why it's important to get the right insurance coverage today. At Kentucky Farm Bureau, we deliver the protection and peace of mind your family deserves. In fact, we've been providing folks in the bluegrass with dependable service since 1943. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment. Welcome to Kentucky Farm Bureau News, the podcast. I'm Tim Thornberry, editor of the KFB News Magazine. Today our guest is Dayna Fentress. She is the Family and Consumer Science Agent at the UK Hardin County Extension Office. And today we're talking about how folks can save on the rising cost of food. Dayna, welcome to the show. Appreciate your help and insight into some of the ways that our members and the consumers out there can save some money when it comes to going to the grocery store. Dayna, I got the idea. American Farm Bureau does a market basket survey for a few times a year, in particular for 4th of July. And they came out with that after we had gone to press for July. So, but I think their prices on food, the items that they were talking about, will probably hold pretty steady throughout the summer. So I thought it would be a good time to talk about food prices. I know that's on the mind of all consumers, and maybe some ways that we can help the budget out, cut some of that out. With that said, first question, I would assume in your position, you've heard a lot from folks about the high cost of food these days.
Well, heard a lot about it, and I've made the same comments myself. I'm a mom of four, and the grocery, is one of those bills that just keeps going up and up, and I myself am trying to figure out how to cut some of those costs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any advice that you can give to consumers out there that helps out a little bit?
Yeah. So, there's a couple of different things that you can do, and you have to do what works for you. So, like, everybody's first suggestion is always coupons. Cut the coupons and use the coupons. But that works for a certain percentage of people. If you are organized enough that you are willing to go through the sale ads and or look online and get the coupons and cut those coupons and learn that you know how to stack them and what you can use when, then absolutely coupons are a wonderful resource that can help you cut costs dramatically if you really learn them. But for the average consumer, we're not going to get deep into the couponing world. You may use one here and there when you see one and when it works and when you actually need that item. But for most of us, we need other ways to cut costs that can be used anytime, kind of thing. Because sometimes there's not a coupon when you need one, or there is a coupon and you may not need that item, but then you feel obligated to buy that item because there's a coupon for it. Well, that just increased your cost because you only bought that because you had a coupon.
Yeah, my wife does that.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about some of the stores that have some of these loyalty programs can be an absolutely wonderful way to save money, without a doubt. And that's one of my suggestions is sign up for some of the loyalty programs, sign up for some of the techs, of places that that you go a lot. But beware of the fact that sometimes they lure you in with those things too, because they know you don't really need that, but here's a coupon for it, so we can talk you into needing it. And that gets a lot of people. So, so some more realistic you can do every day sort of thing if you don't have coupons. First, always I say take inventory of what you already have. When you make your grocery list, don't just make a grocery list, make a grocery menu. And then if you know what you're going to cook, then you can make your grocery list based on that. But you can also take inventory of what's already in your pantry and what you don't need to buy. A lot of times we double buy things because I know I want to make tacos on Tuesday, and so I'm going to buy this, 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 and this. Well, you might already have 3 of those things in your pantry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So use what you already have. Take that inventory before you shop. Use what's in your pantry. When you take that inventory, then make your menu of I already have this spice and this flour and this. Hey, I can make, fried chicken from that or whatever it is. And so you take that inventory, then make your menu plan, and then make your grocery list from those 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
Then the biggest thing is, even if you don't take the inventory, you don't make the menu list, you just have a regular, or your menu plan, you just have a regular grocery list, stick to your grocery list. There is, studies have been done that show that we spend way less money at the grocery store when we actually stick to our list. Because if you don't have a list, you're just kind of guessing and you're buying just in case because you don't want to get stuck in a situation where you might need it and you don't have it. So however you make your grocery list, stick to your list when you get to the store and you will spend less money.
Dayna, I remember the days of, and people still today have their own gardens and or they know somebody that does, or they go to their local farmer's market. So are there some ways? My mother used to can food a lot. And so we could have green beans and tomatoes and some other things during the winter. Is that still a big thing?
Yes, absolutely. It's actually, hit a lull for a little while, and there's a resurgence of some of those homesteading type things. And so we see a lot of interest, especially here at the Extension office where we teach those things, in people wanting to freeze or preserve, anything like that. And so that's a wonderful way to do it. And one of my other suggestions is consider buying things in bulk, whether that is, some of the non-perishables or even some of the perishables. Go to the local farmer's market, and buy things while they're in season, and then you can preserve them or freeze them, and then have them all year long. And so that's a great way to save money.
Do you think people, because sometimes it is a little bit more expensive when you go to the farmer's market, but for instance, I'm a big blueberry fan, but blueberries in the winter from the grocery store, wherever they come from, they taste sort of waxy to me. I would much rather buy a lot from the farmer's market when they're in season and freeze some of them. Are those some, and then I don't waste my money because I'm not going to eat all those waxy blueberries in January.
Correct. Well, and realistically, if you look at the price of produce throughout the full year at a grocery store,
mm-hmm.
It is cheaper at some points during the year, but at some points during the year when those things are not in season and they're having to truck them in from way out of town, they're not any cheaper than a farmer's market would be. And so,
good point.
yes, what you're saying is that if you look at an average price of what blueberries cost at a grocery store throughout the year, like right now they're pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But an average price throughout the year, if you compare that to your local farmer's market, you're not. I guarantee that in a lot of scenarios, the farmer's market's going to come out cheaper. And you get the extra benefit of, where it came from. Most likely that person, or you've seen that person around town. And that person is then spending that money back in your local economy because that's where they live and that's where they have their farm.
Dayna, going back to the COVID years, I know people were a little panicky because they were seeing some of their grocery shelves empty. Not that there was a food shortage, but there were some issues and transportation and just a whole lot of other things going on for folks that are meat eaters. I noticed one thing in the survey that I was talking about. Except for poultry, pork and burgers in particular had gone up, and in some cases, over a 5-year period, had gone up substantially. Hamburger in particular, I think the survey noted it was a 30% increase. Is there? I understand some of the things we could do on the produce side, but what about on the meat side? Is there some ways that we can save money there?
So that's another one that I would absolutely say buy in bulk.
Mm-hmm.
and that is whether you're buying from the grocery store or from a local producer. Um, you can especially get it in bulk, from a lot of our local producers. You can get a whole, a whole cow or a half a cow, half a beef, however I guess you want to say it. But um, and then you can get that most of the time processed the way you want it. And so, if you want so many pounds of ground beef, or you want this sort of steak or this sort of cut, whatever it is, you can choose that, which is really nice. And if you look at that price, it a lot of times comes out cheaper than the grocery store would. But however you're getting it, wherever you're getting it, buy in bulk, and then repackage those things. And so if you're buying a bulk container of pork chops from the grocery store, but you're not going to cook 12 pork chops at once, you don't want all those to thaw at once. And so when you get home, repackage those in the way that your family needs them. If you cook 4 at a time, put 4 at a time in some freezer wrap and in a bag, and put that back in your freezer that way. And then you're able to pull out only what you need, and you're not wasting those other 8 pork chops or whatever it is. And so just being smart in your purchasing, and then when you come home, make it work for your family before you put away, can save you a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like educating the consumer is a big part of what you do. How important is it for those folks out there headed to the grocery store to be an educated consumer and to know these things or know what to look for? How important is that, do you think?
Oh, I think it's extremely important, and I think it's an area. It's not just in food; it's in anything. Being an educated um, consumer not only will save you money, but it's then you can support the things that matter to you, and you can make sure that um, you know what it is you're picking up, you know what it is that you're feeding your family or putting on your body or whatever it is. Um, Unfortunately, we're not. A lot of times we are easily swayed by good marketing, or we are easily swayed by sales or whatever it is. Um, but that education piece can go a long way for sure.
Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of resources through Extension and other ways for people to pick up this information and to educate themselves, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So we are really lucky in Kentucky that there is an extension office in every county. And so every consumer in our state has the ability to access free resources through their extension office. Whether it is on you want to learn how to coupon, or you want to learn how to preserve your own food, or you want to learn, how to be that educated consumer, we've got those resources. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of ways to educate yourself as well. Just make sure that you're picking credible sources. I like to say that anybody can put anything on the internet, and to be aware of that.
And it's all true, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So make sure you are consuming and educating yourself with valid information. And that again is another benefit to going through your local extension offices, that that's research based information, which is nice.
And last question, this is a little off the beaten path. You're never too young to start learning. I know, having been involved in career and technical education for a long time, which included our family and consumer science programs. Those young folks need to learn as soon as possible, because obviously they're going to be the next generation of consumers out there. Is that a good way to look at it?
Oh, 100%. And, realistically too, I say this on a lot of things. If you'll teach the kids, you're also teaching the parents a lot of the times, because I told you I have 4 kids. If I step out of line at the grocery store and it's something they've talked about at school, or something they've learned, they'll call me out and say, that's not what we want. We want this. And so if you teach the parents, yes, the kids hopefully get the side effects of that. But if you teach the kids, they also teach the parents a lot of times. And so you're kind of getting double advantage there. So
great. Well, Dayna, these are all very useful tips. I appreciate it. That's going to be a main part of this story. I didn't want to go out and say, well, food costs are going up, without saying, hey, but this is what you can do. So certainly appreciate your help with it.
Not a problem at all. Let me know if you need anything else.
Our thanks to Dayna Fentress for joining us today on the Kentucky Farm Bureau News, the podcast. If you'd like to hear more of the Farm Life podcast, you can join us on any of your favorite podcast platforms.